Finance Committee meeting of 2025 to order. We seem to have a quorum, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good with a quorum. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see you all. I'm excited to pass for the first gate our budget today. That's why we have so few people in the audience. They're so cocksure about the quality of this budget that no one decided they needed to come and hear about.
Such a great job.
Jay did such a great job, as we knew she would, and we're honored that she is our first woman chief financial officer, and certainly not the last. And so since she has to be chief cook and bottle washer in the absence of Jake Luce, I will ask the chief financial officer if we have any public speakers.
Chair, yes, we have 5 registered speakers today. We ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. There will be a warning beep to remind you there are 30 seconds remaining to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Christopher Greif.
And congratulations on saying Mr. Greif's name correctly. We know that's usually a source of
course.
Jay always
Anger.
says my name right, for the record. And good afternoon.
Let's begin the clock, please. Whoever's
Thank
on the
you.
clock.
I was just waiting. Good.
Your 2
As I
minutes
said,
has
good
begun.
afternoon. I'm Christopher D. Greif. First, I do want to wish everyone happy holidays. As we are, changing the fare coming up, I do want to thank, and I want it on the record because a lot of our disability communities are very happy that you guys are giving out those pamphlets, nice and large ones. So I want to be very clear. They're out there on the buses and subway. And Jay, they do a fantastic job. Because you know what? Years in the past, you couldn't see them. You need a magnifying glass. Now you can see them, and they're going out. I've been out there, too, advocating, letting everyone know. Please check it. It does not affect our senior and disabled people because with those new Omnis, everybody don't realize that you're saving the money, how you're doing, how you're budgeting. A lot of people just need to know, how does it work? How can we work together and educate? And in this year, I've been advocating a lot and advocating from Albany down here. And I'll say this, we are getting things accomplished little by little. But 2026, let's see what happens and how can we advocate together as one. Happy holidays to everyone. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and anyone's birthday, happy birthday. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. X. Take it back. Our next speaker will be Jesse Figueroa, followed by Charleston D'Souza.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jesse Figueroa here, Transit Emperor, also on behalf of the VFW Department of New York District 1. As you manage the financial stewardship of the MTA, I urge you to ensure that every investment reflects transparency, accountability, and accessibility. Budgets are not just numbers. They are commitments to seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities who rely on transit for dignity and independence. This holiday season reminds us that transit is the bridge connecting families, workers, and communities. By managing resources wisely, you deliver not only infrastructure, but also hope and opportunity. On behalf of the veterans community, I thank you for your dedication and wish you and your families peace, health, and joy this holiday season with progress and unity in the year ahead. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, and also happy birthday to those in December. And thanks on behalf of my father, who'll be 85 in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So one thing that has not been talked about by the board or the committee, and I was looking in the board materials, the combo ticket for LIRR and Metro North. You guys forgot to mention that in the fare increase packet. It's not mentioned anywhere in the website. So is the combo ticket for both railroads staying or is it going? You'll need to confirm that today. And if y'all have not addressed that, then that needs to be addressed. It's a good program. I think it should be kept. We agree. Also, coins on buses. Coins should be accepted at least until March or April, till all the people have been able to make the switch over to Omni. And like I said in the earlier meetings, you need to put Omni machines where people are at. At the Jamaica bus terminal in Queens, there should be 2 machines there. There should be 2 machines in the Hempstead Transit Center. There should be at least 2 machines in White Plains. That's how you get people to switch over faster. And you'll need to have customer ambassadors at 179th Street, especially for all the nice bus customers making the switch over, and also in the Bronx for Beeline customers. Y'all should have a table there with people there, I think, for the next few weeks so they can do that switch over. Or just have a van there. Maybe that'll work. But again, we're getting a lot of complaints about Omni. A lot of people are being overcharged. And one thing that I would like to see on the trip history is it doesn't show you the Queens Bus redesign promotional transfers. Is this board keeping the Queens Bus redesign promotional transfers? Because that needs to be kept, because a lot of people are still adjusting to the Queens Bus redesign. So I would urge this committee to please keep that. And if y'all have a list of routes that y'all are planning to do it permanent, then that needs to be addressed today. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Bye.
Our last public speaker will be Jason Anthony.
Good afternoon, Jay, Neil, Haida, and the rest of the board members. Jason Anthony, the transit guru. The previous speaker, which name we're not going to mention due to security reasons, left out some details, and we're gonna fact check them, shall we? That person mentioned 179th Street on the F line. That person didn't mention Jamaica Center on the E, J, and Z lines. That person didn't mention Woodlawn on the 4 line. That person didn't mention Bedfordport Boulevard on the 4 line. And yes, as a person who uses the system every single day, we have seen the fare increase posters that are this big on buses, subways, and on screens and subway stations and on buses. So it is very clear to us that Jay Patel, our wonderful CFO, and her wonderful team has done the job. It is up to the writing public to do the work. If you have an Omni card, register it on omni.info. It is very simple because I am tired of seeing TikTok videos of people saying, oh, I have an Omni card, I'm double charged, or oh, I use a debit or credit card, I'm double charged. But hello, if you have a debit credit card, you could check your trip history online. It's very simple. I'll see you guys in 2026.
All right, well, thank you for that, members of the public. We appreciate your advocacy and support of fiscal discipline, as each of us are. On to the most administrivia of the actions. Can I have an approval of the minutes, a motion to approve the minutes from the last committee meeting, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Haida. Second. Thank you, Mark. Any comments, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Okay, next to the meat of this meeting, and why I, like some others, did not schlep up to Albany for the governor's fete to celebrate her appointees, which I was invited to after 11 and a half years, and I was honored to be invited, and I wish I could have gone, but we have more important business here, folks, which is to pass this budget. So I turn it over to our illustrative and well-celebrated CFO.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll be presenting sort of a few key slides that we presented at board last month to re-highlight the 2026 proposed budget, but as well as the financial plan and some of the assumptions and risks that are in the plan, but wanted to start off again reminding the board that the July plan had deficits of $1.1 billion. In the November plan, we decreased those deficits to $719 million over the 3 years that have deficits, total decrease of $418 million, all done through operating efficiencies. But in that vein, I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that MTA is in a good standing position. If you look around the country, other transit agencies are facing fiscal cliffs that are much larger than our out-year deficits, and they're closing their gaps with double-digit fare increases, service decreases, or taking money from their capital state of good repair projects and moving that to operating. SEPTA has done it. I think WMATA did a little bit of it. I think Chicago is in a position to do some of that as well. So I think I wanted to make sure everybody understood that the MTA took early action thanks to the governor and the legislature in the 2023 budget, and we have solved our fiscal cliff early. But the one piece that I want to remind everybody is that the MTA stepped up and did $500 million of annual savings. And in order for us to continue to do our part and decrease deficits through 2029, that $500 million will become $750 million of recurring annual savings. So that is the highlight of the decrease from July to November. And then a couple of other significant assumptions in the plan. One thing I'll highlight, about an hour ago, if everybody read the news, the commission approved all 3 licenses for the casinos in the downstate. So that is good news. We have built that into the budget, but that was on our significant assumptions, but also on our risk list if that didn't happen. So we can kind of cross that off the list. Those casinos will generate $500 million each in license fees for the MTA, and then recurring annual tax revenue once they're up and running in the future. So we've made an assumption, a very conservative assumption of after a casino opens 2 years later, there'll be about $100 million in annual tax revenue generated for the MTA. If you read the proposals for Resorts World, for example, they'll be up and running next year, earlier than the 2 years that we had been planning. So they'll start generating tax revenue sometime next year. The MTA would benefit from that earlier. We had planned that money would start coming in 2028. So we'll see sort of a natural revenue generation, start thinking about how much they're going to generate. These are all projections of gambling revenue. We know that they match with the study that was done by Spectrum, but nationally, when you've seen projections of casinos opening and then the actual revenue it generates, it tends to be a little bit lower than projections. So we'll continue to monitor and watch that, but that is something that I wanted to highlight and get everyone to understand. Ongoing, we have budgeted $300 million of tax revenue. That's recurring starting in 2030.
2030, okay, so
Five.
They say 5 years.
Exactly. It is in perpetuity, $300 million. And if that comes in higher, we will actually increase the revenue that we've budgeted for that. But I wanted to make sure everyone, conservative approach that $300 million would be generated from these casinos some point in the future. FEMA was a significant assumption that we have in the financial plan. It is part of a New York State coordinated project to be funded. We expect the claim to be obligated and approved, but the timing is something that, we anticipate. So what we've done here again is take a conservative approach. Instead of budgeting all $600 million in 2026, we anticipate that will come over 3 years. So if there is a slip in the date of obligation and drawdowns of these federal funds, $200 million is a little bit more manageable for us when we talk about a $21 billion budget, and we can adjust the timing of it. Now, you know, I'll be upfront, right? We've budgeted that money in 24 and in 25. It has not come in, but thankfully we've been able to backfill that with additional revenue that's come in during the year, whether it was like PMT or some subsidies that we had that we moved. And so we were able to recover that revenue and just shift out the cost recoveries from FEMA. Our biannual small fare increases are also budgeted in the financial plan. In 2027 and 2029, 4%, staying with the small patterns that we think are affordable to our customers and predictable for fare increases, fare and toll increases. Paratransit reimbursement is also something that is an assumption in this financial plan, but as a reminder, state legislation through June 30th of 2027 has the cost share of 50% plus $165 million cap, which equates to roughly 80% in the percentages, but the trip growth is making that a little bit less. MTA is hitting that cap a little bit earlier, so the 165 drops down from a 80% share to 75% in any given year. So that legislation really needs to be renewed by July 1st of 2027 for us. The MTA plan assumes 80% reimbursement starting that date. But we have a little bit of time for that legislation to be changed and the city to make sure they have financial planning for that increased contribution for paratransit services. The city does not plan in their budget for this increase. I will remind that we read the comptroller's report probably, and that is something that is a deficit for them. But I'll remind you that in their actual 2026 budget, they only budgeted 50%, not the additional cap of 165. So it is something that's already legislated that they need to actually amend their budget for that. And then, you know, I hit on the annual operating efficiencies. The MTA is taking that in 2026 at 75 million, and each of the agency presidents is working with us to grow that savings by 250 million by 2029. And then I'll take the reminder of the next slide. Just what we're going to be voting on is the actual 2026 final proposed budget. It is a balanced budget, so it's a net zero for us, which is required as part of our budget. We are at $21.3 billion for both revenue and expenses. A reminder that when you take out debt service, which is 14% of our operating budget costs, 70% of the operating budget is driven by labor cost. 70,000 employees across the MTA contribute to that cost of 70%. As a reminder, when you look at the financial plan as well, in the out years, we continue to manage debt service as a percentage of our operating budget at 15% or below. In the out years, it increases slightly, but like 15.3%, not anything greater than that. And so we are continuing managing our debt service to be at the 15% and below. And then one more slide. You know, I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that the financial condition is strong. We're balanced in 2026, and it's reflected in our upgrades recently from our credit ratings. Coming out of the pandemic, we have grown ridership, expanded service, all while maintaining disciplined cost control. As a reminder, our budget continues to be below inflation adjusted dollars when you compare it to 2019. Our out-year deficits, while real, represent less than 1% of the operating budget. That $160 million is very insignificant when you compare it to the $21 billion we're talking about. But it's something that we will continue to address and make sure we close when we present next year's budget to you for 2027. And then we continue to take internal steps to close our budget deficits and watch revenue and expenses as we do throughout the year. Happy to take questions.
Let's do this. Let's take a motion in a second, then we'll engage in a discussion as per classic Roberts rules, and then take the vote. So can I have a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve.
Or I say to adopt and move the budget and the financial plan. I'll take a motion from Haida, a second from David. Questions? We'll start, I actually saw Andrew first, then Melva, and then we'll go from there. Andrew.
Thanks. Jay, this is really exciting. Will the additional casino revenue help bump up the credit rating even further, do you think? Or is that just another factor of that shows we're doing the right thing?
It's just another revenue source for our budget, and so it's a small piece of the $21 billion. But if the revenue comes in much stronger, I think that will help only our position at the MTA, making sure that we're running efficient service, good service, and then maintaining our state of good repair.
And the one thing that appears to be missing from this list is getting a hold of fare evasion. Where is that in here?
So let me take you, I don't have the slides here, but ridership and revenue slides for our fare box and our subways, buses, and commuter rails. We, as you know, last year took a hard look at the new trends in ridership. And what we did in 2024 was adjust our ridership and revenue projections for each of the modes to accurately reflect what was happening in the system. And then in the financial plan in the out years, what we've done is continue to trend that small incremental changes that are manageable. So we've built in some recovery on fare evasion rates for both subways and buses and the railroads, but the increase, never goes to 100% of pre-pandemic levels. I think the railroads end at 85 to 89%, and the subways is closer to 80%, and the buses, we continue to make small incremental changes, but we didn't want to just make a large assumption, and that doesn't materialize, which then creates a budget gap for us in those out years that are bigger than what we have projected. And so we do 3 financial plans a year, and so as we continue to trend and see the actual results, we like to update in the July plan, which is a major update both for ridership and revenue, and then in the November plan, we would take the same approach.
And as the new
changes.
turnstile, the new gates that we're going to be testing out come in, you can then incorporate anything you find in those into the next capital.
Yep.
Thank you.
Melva?
Thank you, and thank you, Jay, for the back and forth this week, and I had a number of questions after having an opportunity to really look at the financial plan and proposed budget. Some of the questions were answered today, and I look forward to a deeper conversation on some of the other issues which have no bearing on my supportive vote to pass this budget today. But the question I have for you is about the casinos, and I was wondering, in the projections, is there assumptions made based on the locality of where the casinos are? Because I know I've done a lot of work on one, and they exceeded, well, it's probably obvious, right? They exceeded their projections when they first opened. But now, right, there's more casinos in the New York City area, so I'm sure it's going to affect revenues on their part. So I'm just wondering if the projections take into account those assumptions.
So, as you know, the Gaming Commission required each of the casinos to do both a high and a low case, meaning that the high, if they're the only ones open in the area, a medium, and a low case, meaning all 3 casinos were awarded downstate. So each of those projections are based on those high-low cases. Even when you look at the lowest revenue scenario, the revenue there is projected to be much higher than the 100 million for each casino. I think if I looked at the resorts proposal, right, and I want to make sure everybody understands it's a proposal and it's on a, a high end of revenue for them, it still would generate, $200, $300 to $400 million in annual revenue for the MTA. But I want to remind everyone there is provisions in the legislation that they first go to education aid if they're today, if they're open a video lottery terminal, so that revenue goes to education first, and then there's tiers of sort of revenue to the MTA that hit a ceiling and then go back to a different formula. So there are a tiered approach to the revenue that the MTA would get. So I think to your point, Resorts World would be one. They've already have VLTs they would give to education, but the other two are new, and so we would get X percent of revenue, of tax revenue that they generate.
But it sounds like the projections in the budget are very conservative
Very.
and taking a lot of things into consideration.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
What, there is no 100% guarantee, right? What do we hold? I guess somebody else will have to make us whole if those revenues aren't generated, right?
Right. So we would work with the state to make sure that the MTA is made whole on those revenues. I have a meeting with them tomorrow to go over the revenue projections because they have different revenue projections as well for the casinos, but we want to make sure we're reading all the documents similarly together and making the correct revenue projections for the MTA that this would generate. So we'll keep an eye on it, but as actuals flow in, we'll keep the board apprised of the revenues that we plan for the MTA.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, I'll just make a couple myself. I think it's wise to live life by a motto akin to something like think with optimism and act with vigilance. I feel that way after a really awful weekend around the world and in this country. And I feel that with even something as theocratic or technocratic as a budget. But this is a good and dedicated steward of money, and I'm thrilled that you are, like your two predecessors I've worked with, committed to that. Even as we've climbed over the $20 billion number, which is a big number, it's impressive that our governor has stood behind us. That June 2023 milestone was important. As you remember, we had 5 years then of break-even budgets, and that meant a lot. And seeing those new sources of revenue, the existing sources of revenue are important, and obviously the agency presidents have done their part with labor's support and with non-represented workers to figure out how to further close that gap. But our financials, let's not forget, are highly dependent on things outside of our control. We have not that much within our control. We have costs and we have fares, and the rest are dependent on the vagaries of the real estate market, these casino revenues we just talked about, the city's contributions, et cetera. So there are a lot of things we don't have control over. And it's not surprising when your fares go up higher than your wages, which is, as Jay said, 70% of our cost structure is labor. When the wages go up higher than our fares, we have a deficit, and that deficit's sitting out there. And I am vigilant over that deficit, as we all need to be on this board, because those are real numbers, and someone's gonna have to close that gap at some point. And our role as a board, as a committee, and I guess as a board in general, is to make sure we're watching for those deficits. So we've always figured it out. This governor is clearly committed to figuring it out. I'm not worried about the 2026 budget. I think it's a fine budget, but am I a little nervous about the medium term? Yeah, I'm a little worried, and I think we should all be mindful. And I want to thank David Jones for always being my partner in staring at that debt percentage and hoping. I watched his face when you said 14, no more than 15. He breathed a sigh of relief, as did I when I see these numbers. So I thank this staff for getting us to a good-looking budget for 26. An okay, maybe a little scary out-year budget through 29. I'm guarantee I will not be in this board in 29. I said that a few years ago, but this I predict that it will be the case. I will not be here. So I hope we'll figure it out. And you don't want to hear my view of city income tax. Some of you have already heard my view on that. Anyway, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to move this, and let me ask for a vote then on this budget for 2026 through 2029, please. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Well done, Jay. And we pass that to the full budget. All right, Jake, over to the alternative dispute resolution topic, please.
So the second action for the committee today is to add alternative dispute resolution services to a competitively negotiated insurance broker agreement awarded to Alliant Insurance Services for the placement of the owner-controlled insurance program for Second Avenue Subway Phase 2. The Alternative Dispute Resolution Program is an alternative method for managing workers' compensation claims for represented workers. The main goals of the program are to ultimately lower the MTA's overall insurance costs, reduce the cost of claims by getting injured workers to receive prompt treatment and return to work quickly. This program will include on-site medical care to evaluate and triage any injuries that arise during construction for Contract 2, as well as provision of a qualified network of medical providers for injured workers to access. Based on previous experiences implementing alternative dispute resolution programs on MTA and other projects, Alliant estimates savings of approximately $20 million, $16 million in net savings. My colleagues Claudia Rubin and Laudwin Pemberton are available to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions on the ADR? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Well, actually, I should ask for a motion. Sorry, may I have a motion to approve the ADR? Motion, please. Okay, Hada, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Oh, any comments? Wait, what did you say, Randy? It's late? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Olga, over to you for a resolution on issuing bonds, etc.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. As we do every December, we asking for your approval of a resolution that lets us issue bonds, notes, and other types of debt over the coming year. Just as a reminder, when the board approves the capital programs, you're also approving how these projects are being funded. And typically it's a mix of different funding sources, federal, state, city, and also MTA debt. This annual authorization is simply part of that process. It doesn't add anything new and doesn't increase the overall level of debt that was already approved for capital programs. This resolution allows us to move forward with the financing we expect to need in 2026 for the approved capital projects, up to $7 billion for transit and commuter projects, and up to $700 million for TBTA projects, as well as up to $1.5 billion to support working capital needs next year. These amounts are in line with last year's authorization or with our actual borrowing levels this year. And as always, we will come back to this committee and we will report on the results of all financing transactions that we do. This authorization covers all forms of debt, including bonds, notes, and loans. We've used loans in the past, and they're part of our toolkit. And we use them when they offer attractive terms and to complement our bond and note issuances. The finance team continually looks at the most efficient and cost-effective ways to finance our capital needs. And since there is no practical alternative to issuing debt to fully fund the approved capital program, we're asking for the board's, this committee's and board's approval for this annual authorization.
Yeah, motion to approve the authorization. Thank you, David, and the second, Mark. Any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you, Olga, for your duty. Jake, work plan.
Thank you. This proposed action is to approve the work plan included in the Finance Committee book. The only change to the Finance work plan compared to the 2025 work plan that I would note for the committee members is that the resolution to authorize the execution of filing and acceptance of federal funds has been changed to an information item on relevant projects because there is currently a multi-year authorization in place for executing documents related to federal funding. Other than that, no changes from the 2025 work plan. Motion to approve the change to the work plan. Thank you, Mark. Second.
Thank you, Melva. Any comments on changing the work plan? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Lizette, procurement, please.
Yes, there is one MTA headquarters item this month for Finance Committee approval in the estimated amount of $16.95 million. This action is found in the committee book. This item is a request for the board to approve a contract extension and an increase in funding for a competitively negotiated personal services contract awarded to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company to continue providing basic and voluntary life and accidental death and dismemberment and both long and short-term disability insurance for 88,000 non-represented and certain represented and retired employees. The original contract was approved in September 2020 for $55.5 million in a period of 5 years, commencing January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2025. The replacement RFP has already been released, and an award is expected to be executed in 2026. Negotiations for Basic Life resulted in savings of $500,000, which is the difference in initial and final proposal, and a $150,000 reduction for short-term disability. For all coverages, the rates are considered fair and reasonable from an underwriting perspective.
Okay, a motion to approve the contract extension for MetLife. Thank you, Hada. Second. Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Lizette, let's just stick with you for the information item, and then we'll go to Jake.
Sure. There are two information items for New York City Transit as follows. The first item is a request for board approval to exercise an option for the contract for the purchase of 165 low-floor, 40-foot diesel electric hybrid buses awarded to Nova. And yes, this is an information. The second item is a request that the board ratify the declaration of an immediate operating need and approve the award of an emergency estimated quantity contract to furnish and install fare evasion turnstile sleeves and stainless steel vertical fins to Boyce Technologies. There is one information item from Metro North on behalf of Long Island Railroad as follows. This item is a request that the board approve the award of a non-competitive miscellaneous service contract for the leasing of 3 laser train modules, 1 for M&R and 2 for Long Island Railroad for rail-based cleaning to laser tribology BV. There are no information items for bridges and tunnel this month.
All right, thank you, Lizette. Any questions on the information item? Okay, Jake, over to you for the other information item.
The other information item is the Transit Adjudication Bureau's annual report. The Transit Adjudication Bureau processes notices of violation of the rules governing conduct in subway and bus facilities of the New York City transit system, including fare evasion. The 2025 report includes key performance metrics for TAB and can be found in the Finance Committee book.
All right, any questions on Jake's Transit Adjudication Bureau commentary? Hearing none. Okay. So I don't ever itemize these monthly consolidated reports, and I actually almost never say the line they ask me to say, which is it's in your books, because I think to tell a bunch of very sophisticated professionals that stuff's in the book is kind of insulting to say. However, it wouldn't be the world's worst thing, maybe, Jake, without cutting you on the spot, which is what is in the monthly consolidated reports? Because I'm sure everyone's read it, but maybe just in case they didn't crack it open this holiday season, what's in there that they should look at if they want to?
It will be very exciting. Give me 1 second to pull up the itemized list.
Okay, if anyone knows. Don't stress. Don't stress. It's okay. It's not opening. All right, it's okay. You come back to it. Well, let's let you find it while David gives us the skinny. All right, David. David, you have the floor for real estate.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Real estate has 3 transactional items for consideration and approval. One of which is a transit-oriented development item. The first is for the MTA, and it is the acquisition of property interests in support of Penn Station access. And Miriam Harris, Senior Vice President of TOD, will present that item.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Chairman. This action is for acquisition of a permanent easement and construction license in support of the Penn Station access project. This will enable a pedestrian overpass at the south entrance of the Metro North Railroad's new Morris Park Station as part of the Penn Access project. The value of the transaction with the grantor, RLF Bassett II LLC, is $1 million. The board is asked to authorize this action to acquire the property interest, construct a new entrance to the grantor's property, and enter into associated agreements regarding the pedestrian overpass.
Okay, that's great. Why don't you guys continue? We'll just do it as one motion.
The next two items for MTA Metro North, both are deals at Grand Central Terminal. One is a lease with Azar Bake Shop doing business as Zaro's Family Bakery for retail space at Grand Central. That's at track 19 on the main concourse. And the other is a lease with Ben Kui for retail space in Grand Central Terminal in the Grand Central Market. Both Ben Kui, which is the Grand Central Market, both went through RFP process, but as a result, the incumbents won. These are in fact 10-year renewals for each. It's a base rent with a percentage rent for both. In
Okay.
addition, we have an information item, the agreements we enter into directly pursuant to board policy.
Are there any questions on any of the three votes for real estate? Melba, please. It was why did the Azores not go? Why did they change it to Zaro? I mean, that's
The
must
legal
be your
name is
question.
Azor Bake Shop.
I see. I understand.
Yeah.
So their name must be. Which is the family name?
Zaro.
Why'd they flip the letters around to make Azor?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
No one knows.
I once did a deal with a company called Dinal, which is land spelled backwards. So that could be
Oh, okay.
it.
There must be something to this. Yeah, I was gonna say, how about our vote be contingent on the family coming and explaining what the. Okay, Melba, that give you enough delay?
No, it did. I mean,
okay.
the question I had was about the MAG and the annual guarantee versus the rent and how that compares across Long Island Railroad against properties. I just thinking about sort of taking into consideration the financial times we're in and how this compares to other property is just normal practice. The amount.
It is.
Yeah.
This is marketed by our exclusive broker, which is a great experience in the Grand Central area. It was competitively offered, and this rent is roughly a little bit higher than what they were paying pre-COVID. So it worked out well. We were paying, as you all know, the revenue during COVID was obviously tanked. Right now, just as a quick, pre-COVID, Grand Central's top line revenue was 45 million. We're back to 36 million. So we're inching, if that's helpful, right? Yeah.
Good. All right, other questions on the real estate items? We'll take them as a package. Motion to approve the three real estate items. Thank you, Mark. Second. Thank you, Hayda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Any new business for the committee? Any old business that we didn't talk about? Okay, well then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, David. Second, someone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2026.